Analysis and perspective on all these stories from House Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina joins us here in studio. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's start with James' story about this FBI official who has kicked off the Mueller investigation. How serious do you think this is, knowing what you know about it now?
I think from a perception standpoint, it's incredibly serious. He was one of the agents in Secretary Clinton's investigation. He was on Mueller's special counsel. He has anti-Trump, perhaps pro-Clinton texts. People have the right to assume the people that are investigating them are objective and have not already made up their minds. That's why we need to see the text and we need to interview this special agent. But the Bureau's had a really bad last 18 months, and this makes it worse, frankly.
There was a 5 p.m. deadline by Chairman Nunes for the DOJ and FBI to produce all subpoenaed documents about the Fusion GPS dossier that came and went. It was not filled. There was a lot of stonewalling that even Speaker Ryan has talked about. So do you think the chairman is going to be proceeding with a contempt of Congress?
I think what we want are the documents and not the drama. When you go to a floor fight on contempt of Congress, it's inherently political. And what we really want is just the information and access to the witnesses. We have an investigation that we want to conclude quickly. But you're right. The Speaker has weighed in, which is pretty unprecedented. If the Department of Justice or the Bureau has a legitimate reason for withholding that information, and the only legitimate reason I can think of is it's part of an ongoing probe. If that's what it is, they need to make that very clear. Otherwise, they need to produce the information. And if they don't, I don't want to go contempt. I want the information. I don't want the drama of a floor fight. But if we have a floor fight, it'll be because the department picked one, not us.
Well, we know there's an Office of Inspector General investigation into this, right?
Yeah, Michael Horowitz is the Inspector General. I talked to him over the weekend. He is exactly what we want to think the FBI is. He's a referee. He's a straight shooter. I've known him for 4 years. I think he's the one who uncovered these texts, and I actually have full confidence that he's going to get to the bottom of it.
So if Strzok changed the language, as is being reported in the Clinton situation for Director Comey, from grossly negligent to extremely careless, is that perhaps alone grounds to reopen that case?
Well, I don't think they need any grounds to reopen it. I mean, the FBI head was picked by Trump. The DOJ head was picked by Trump. Rod Rosenstein was picked by Trump. So all of the old actors are gone now. They don't need a reason. There's no statute of limitations. They don't need permission to reopen something. I do find it interesting the FBI changed the words grossly negligent, which is exactly what's in the statute, to extremely careless, which is a synonym. It's just not what's in the statute. Another reason we got to get this agent in and then Comey in to understand the decision-making back in 2016.
All right, take a listen, Senator Mark Warner and Senator Dianne Feinstein over the weekend.
This president has been obsessed with this investigation, always saying there's nothing there, but each week another shoe drops. Now the president is somehow saying he fired Flynn because he knew Flynn was lying to Pence. Well, if he knew that then, why didn't he act on it earlier? It raises a whole series of additional questions.
What we're beginning to see is the putting together of a case of obstruction of justice. Obstruction
of justice. That is the going case up on Capitol Hill being talked about.
Only because the collusion case hasn't been made. I mean, keep in mind, so two of these folks that you just showed, they were talking about collusion this time 6 months ago, but there's no evidence of that, so now they pivoted to obstruction of justice. It's an interesting legal argument.
What about the legal argument? Alan Dershowitz says you can't make it against the president. Other people say they point to Nixon and Clinton and the political case that's made in impeachment. Where are you on the obstruction of justice?
I would say two things. I think the chief executive can obstruct justice. I would disagree with Professor Dershowitz. I just think it's really, really hard when you have full pardon power, plenary pardon power, and you are the chief executive and can direct what is and is not investigated. Also, Brett, keep in mind, this is the same president who said he liked Bill and Hillary Clinton and didn't want to see anything bad happen to them. Is that obstruction of justice? Are the Democrats complaining that he weighed in and tried to influence a decision with respect to them? I wish he'd stay off Twitter. I really do. I wish he'd quit commenting on ongoing probes. But the obstruction of justice, remember, that started being discussed when Comey had these memos that he said he made. I've read the memos. I've read every one of Comey's memos. They would be defense exhibit A in an obstruction of justice case, not prosecution exhibit, defense exhibit A. If Comey felt obstructed, he did a masterful job of keeping it out of any of his memos.
Last thing, how does the FBI go from assessing that Flynn made a mistake to deliberately lying to the FBI in a plea agreement, something that Michael Flynn agrees to?
One of two things. Either they were wrong when they thought that he just simply made a mistake. Keep in mind, he knows whether or not he was lying, and it may be that they thought he wasn't, but he raised his hand and said, yes, I was. Or it may have been they said, look, we're going to not investigate this other stuff, but we need you to make a 1001 plea, and you need to plead to making a false statement. I can tell you, Brett, when all you got is a false statement to a federal law enforcement officer, you ain't got much. That's usually the very bottom of the barrel of what you make people plead to. It's no prison time associated, and you have made that witness, frankly, incredible in front of a jury because they've already admitted to lying. So it's either he knew he was lying and the Bureau didn't, or they have worked something out in lieu of other charges.
Is this going to last a long time, do you think, in your assessment, looking where we are right now?
I think the Democrats want it to last until the next election cycle, and it's our job to do a thorough job, but also not let it unnecessarily be prolonged. I continue to think Robert Mueller is our fellow citizens' best hope for finding out what really happened. Congressional investigations don't have a reputation of being very good.
Do you think that there's a possibility that another special counsel is somehow going to be requested?
You know, Brett, I'm in a small universe of people that doesn't think we need one. I got friends on the other side, but the folks running the Department of Justice now aren't the ones who ran it under President Obama. These are Trump people. So special counsel just means we either don't think you can do your job, and the women and men that we paid millions of dollars to run the DOJ, so we're going to find somebody who's not part of DOJ and give them a bunch of FBI agents. And oh, by the way, the FBI's got some issues right now. Special counsel is not a panacea. What we need is a serious investigation. Who does it?
I will say this. Hillary Clinton lied many times to the FBI. Nothing happened to her. Flynn lied, and they destroyed his life. I think it's a shame.
So President Trump sees a double standard in all of this when it comes to the cases of Michael Flynn and the case of Hillary Clinton and whether or not they lied to the FBI. Remember, Secretary Clinton's case was the focus of James Comey's testimony in front of Congress right before the election.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
No, there was classified material emailed.
Secretary Clinton said she used just one device. Was that true?
She used multiple devices.
Secretary Clinton said all work-related emails were returned to the State Department. Was that true?
No, we found work-related emails, thousands, that were not returned.
Memorable testimony during all of that with Congressman Trey Gowdy. We turn to former Oversight Committee Chairman Jason Chaffetz and former Hillary Clinton campaign aide Zach Buchanan. Welcome to both of you. Good to have you both here.
Be with you.
You know, I mean, President Trump's argument today is that there are two different standards and that Michael Flynn was not treated in the same way that Hillary Clinton was, and he thinks that's political. Zach, what say you?
I mean, look, I think that Donald Trump is actually missing the point. The significance of the Michael Flynn plea deal on Friday was less about him lying and more about the fact that he traded a lesser sentence in order to cooperate with the special counsel. Donald Trump has a problem. It's not a double standard. It's that someone that was by his side throughout the entire campaign that has the keys to the castle is now working with the special counsel against Donald Trump. That's his big problem.
Jason, is that the truth?
No, he got the least charge that he could possibly get. I don't think this is a threat. I think it's actually a good sign for Donald Trump. If all they could get him on was nothing to do with collusion, nothing to do with Russians, only to have to do with lying to an FBI agent, and then admitting to it that he's a liar, good luck going before a jury and saying, well, this guy's credible, but even though he just went before the judge and told you that he's a certified liar. So it's not a winning case. They didn't have anything on him.
Well, I mean, we will see. You know, in terms of the question about the way that the Clinton case was treated versus the Michael Flynn case, and whether or not that proves the politicalization of the FBI, let's play this soundbite. This is Hillary Clinton talking about the classified email, which was what was in the Gowdy exchange that you just saw, and also a man who was integral to that investigation who has just come forward. Watch.
I did not send or receive any emails marked classified at the time. I never sent or received anything that was marked classified. They weren't marked classified.
Her main concern was asking me whether or not the documents were marked. And I tried to explain over and over again, as I did then for the next year and a half, that it didn't really matter what was marked.
So Charles McCullough is saying you can't get away with that, and she was very concerned. And we all remember that the language that she always used was so specific. It was like, this is my phrase, and I'm sticking with it. Nothing that was marked classified. And even though many people said to her, it doesn't matter if it's marked classified. You're not allowed to expose that kind of document on an open server where people could access it. She got away with it. Now President Trump's making the argument, Zach and then Jason, that there's a double dynamic going on here, that it was clear that they wanted to protect her and that it's clear they want to fry people in his administration.
Look, I know that it's fun for Donald Trump to beat up on Hillary Clinton, and I understand the strategy of why he's doing it. This is an attempt to undermine the FBI investigation, to discredit it as it is gaining steam and as it is throwing down indictments, and that guilty pleas are coming down. I mean, look.
But you don't know that indictments or guilty pleas are coming down. Zach, how do you know that?
Because 2 indictments have come down when we have 2 guilty pleas. So
not related to collusion.
Well,
neither one of them.
What they are related
and not
to,
related to the White House.
Well,
and Comey has said the president's not under investigation. I don't know if that's going to turn out to be true, but I'm just dealing in what we actually know.
No,
and you're throwing all kinds of assessments that are based on what I'm not so sure.
Well, I mean, the question is, if they did nothing wrong, why are they lying about it? Why did Michael Flynn lie to the FBI if he did nothing?
Why did Hillary Clinton lie about not having any classified emails on an open server?
That has nothing to do with whether or not they talked to the Russians and
No, it doesn't. I didn't suggest that it was. Jason Chaffetz, no, they don't have it. They're totally different cases. But the question, you said, why did he lie? And I'm asking you, in her case, why did she lie? Because we're comparing them to judge the credibility of the investigation itself.
One is hiding something, which is in terms of the Russians, and the other one is a different interpretation of what classified is.
Well, that's very convenient. Jason Chaffetz.
No, Zach, what you have is now an FBI agent who is integral into this whole investigation, ends up that he's pro-Hillary Clinton, anti-Donald Trump.
He was
involved in these.
Mueller.
He was sending texts to his lover who was involved and engaged in this. You have Director Comey, who comes before the Oversight Committee, says he didn't even look at whether Hillary Clinton testified truthfully under oath, said that he would get back to us when we asked him and sent him a formal letter to look into that, didn't do that. You have Bill Clinton meeting on the tarmac with the Attorney General. I mean, the integrity of this case is in peril, and the Democrats should be joining us in questioning what's going on at the FBI.
Look, the fact that Robert Mueller fired this guy shows what a tight ship that he is actually running.
No, he only fired him after it became revealed that these texts existed, and he worked in the department since the 1990s. So there's no way that they didn't have some sense of, who this man was and whether or not he'd be the right person for the case.
Yes, exactly. He fired him once he learned that the text existed.
Because it was obvious. It was out there.
How was he supposed to fire him before he knew the text?
Because he's known him since the 1990s.
He was the genesis of the documents.
What does that have to do with anything?
That perhaps he had something
because he was the genesis of the investigation that started all these other things.
I don't know who you text, Martha. I've known you for 6 months.
When you're leading out on that investigation, you're in the room interviewing Hillary Clinton. Nobody thinks that she got a serious investigation along that way. It begs a lot of questions. And then why is it that the Department of Justice will not make him available and not provide the documents to the Congress?
She won't get a serious investigation. Donald Trump said he fired James Comey because he was too hard on Hillary Clinton. Now you guys are saying that she didn't get a serious investigation. You guys got to pick your story here.
You know what? I think the American people just want to know that the same rules apply no matter who's being looked at. And they look at these 2 cases and they're trying to figure out whether or not the people who are doing the investigation and making the decisions are actually being truthful and honest and treating everyone the same. And I think that's a very valid question. No one's trying to retry the Clinton case. They're just using it as a benchmark to say, well, we know what happened there. So what's happening here? So we're going to leave it at that. Yeah, I gotta
Did Hillary Clinton lie under oath? They indicted Roger Clemens for lying under oath, and they didn't even touch Hillary Clinton.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much, guys. Good to see you tonight.